What you know about software? Anyone? Hmm. Students, please, you can unmute and respond, so you can pass your answer to the chat. It's okay. So, anyway, yeah. So, thank you, Vihanga. He said that instructions to power up hardware. Okay, those are particular softwares. Yeah, right. And Tejaswini. Software is a collection of instructions that have to connect user with hardware. Okay. So, what are the examples of software? Like, if you know, we can wind up by 5 minutes. Like software, you already learn and many things about softwares, and you currently we are working with so it's another particular software, right? So, so I like to know what did you know about software, and can anyone maybe unmute and explain? Okay, they just inside the operating system, Windows, Mac, Linux, application systems, Microsoft Office, WhatsApp. Okay, WhatsApp also application. Around the nice as a games. Yeah, games also some kind of some like it's entertainment, right? And Microsoft Word, Photoshop. Okay, so you have some kind of knowledge about software, and yeah, let's uh, go back deep. So I will explain what is software, some software types, and especially software sphere of influence. So what that is, and software supporting how software support for yourself as a group, and maybe for uh, as an enterprise, and software systems, operating system, utility middleware, application softwares, software issues and trends, and finally computer languages. Right. Okay. So before explaining a software, so please raise your hand if anyone didn't install any software uh, to now. ඔගොල්ලෝ software එකක් install කරලා නැත්නම් අත උස්සන්න බලන්න. Okay, I see no any hands, so I will ask someone to explain how to what is the step of installing a software. Hmm. Okay, ask him. Nishank, can you unmute and say how to install a particular software? Nishank, index number 110634. Nishaka, are you there? Or simply say what are the softwares that you have installed? ඔයගොල්ලෝ install කරලා තියෙන software මොනවාද? නමෝද්‍ය Unreal Engine. Can you explain what are the steps you have followed?
I downloaded the software from internet and opened the setup and installed it.
So, did you highlight or do you have any kind of particular step that you must need to do when you install it? There are some buttons saying next, 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 right? So, did you ever keep an eye about what are those about? Anyone?
Installation location and storage requirements
And
terms and conditions and policies.
yeah, terms and conditions and policies. So, did you ever read about those? End
Never.
user license agreements. You may not about EULAs.
Never.
Just tick.
Yeah, that's why we need to right. We need to do this lecture, right? Because basically, even myself, I will never read about those EULAs and all. We just need to install that particular software. So why we actually need to read about those end user license agreements? You like I don't exactly remember some particular softwares are there that even you need to scroll the agreement. Otherwise, you can't press just next button, right? කියන්නේ ඔයාලා scroll කරලා මේක බැලුවේ නැත්නම් ඔයාලට අඩුම ගානේ X කරන්න බටන් එක active වෙන්නේ, right? Yeah, Vihanga, you said that I can be affect to our privacy. Example, face recognition. Actually, the thing is, for a like valid software, they cannot use our privacy. Even they have mentioned their license agreement, but the problem is you must need to aware what are their terms and conditions. Like there can be case that you installing a pirate software and in that situations if they change some things in the agreement, then you can harm you will get harm to yourself, your machines, and even when you go to the court, it's very difficult, right? Yeah, it informs users. Thank you, Ransimha. To inform users about how their personal data will be collected, used, and protected, right? So when you are dealing with Google, right? When you have if you have Android phone, you may feel this experience like if you say you are going to buy something, and when you go to Facebook, it always pop up those ads, right? So you need to read about those end user agreements, how they are collecting those personal data, like when you go to Facebook, WhatsApp, in your Google. So if you activated your phone location, then in Google they are collecting all the information where you are traveling, right? So in some cases those, yeah, very, like many cases those are very benefited to you, like yourself is being tracked, and you can be aware about what you have already visited, like you can memorize those places, but the problem is you need to clearly have a full idea that how they are going to deal with. So that's why we need to learn about the software. So as you already mentioned, so software consists of computer programs that control the working of computer hardware, right? So software is a set of instructions, data, or programs used to operate computers and execute a specific task, right? So not every program, but many programs will working with computer hardware and give some output, right? Some may even only display some kind of uh, visual. And main thing difference from hardware to software is uh, the software is intangible, right? We can't touch, right? Yeah. So let's go back to go to the types of software. So currently I have specified two types as mentioned in your handbook as well. So system software and application software. So in early, many of you have mentioned the software is collection of instructions that help connect user with hardware. So many of these answers are basically for system software. So system software includes operating systems, utilities, middleware. So that means they are coordinate the activities and function of the hardware and other programs throughout the computer system, right? So its main task is to connect those application software with your hardware, right? So, but speaking the application software, so it consists programs that help users solve particular computer problems, right? So those application software will be run on top of system software. It's kind of hard they explain it in that way, but for your understanding, for your uh, clearance, we can say like, because uh, that's why it's called application software. Without system softwares, they cannot run it individually, but they they are programmed to do a particular problem, like spreadsheet and gaming, as you mentioned. So Zoom also has some kind of application software. And yeah, so anyone have an idea that how those application software will work with your hardware and maybe system software and the hardware? How actually those application softwares are working? Yeah, I will easy the question in this way. When you are running particular application, let's say uh, paint, or a simple application, when it's running, will in the same time, will the system software is also working? That means operating system. If you are running running paint on a, let's say Windows 11 OS, and if the paint explain software is running. In the same time, will the Windows 11 also run in the particular hardware? So please raise your hand if you are thinking OS also running in the hardware. So I see a few hands. So I will explain in this way. So if your machine, your personal computer has more cores, that means like after Pentium D, there was 2-core machines. So that means 2-core, and now my machine has 8 cores, right? So that means in single machine, it can do many tasks parallelly. So simultaneously, in the same time, there can be run many tasks in a simple personal computer. But before that time, so there was only one core machine, one and maybe 2 threads. So in a particular hardware, that for a particular program will run on that only that program. That means if OS also running in the same hardware and we need to run a particular application, that application cannot run because the OS already took that particular hardware, right? So that means in there should be some mechanism that those hardware should only be utilized to a particular application. කෙනවලට මෙහෙම කිව්වොත් දැන් software operating system එක ගොඩක් කාලයකට කලින් කියන්නේ course එන්න course මම introduce කරන්න කලින් operating system එක දුවන එක core එක නම් එතකොට යාට parallelly run කරන්න බැරි නම් මේ ඒ particular application එකට ඕන වෙනවා ඒ hardware එකම use කරන්න. Operating system එක run වෙනවා නම් එයාට hardware එක use කරන්න බෑ. Right? The application software cannot use that particular hardware to run the corresponding program. It should be free or it should be available those hardware. Otherwise, if the particular OS also occupied, then the application cannot run. That's how actually happened. That means in simultaneously in a particular hardware, there should be only one program will execute, right? So it's actually wrong to say that application software will run on top of system software. But what actually happened is when the OS running, there are some mechanisms here, like you may learn about those maybe in your final years. So when a particular program run, when the OS running, and when we need to open a particular application, what actually happen is using system interrupts, the OS will be interrupt, and then it will allocate by the OS. OS will allocate the hardware to run that particular application, and the OS will trigger interrupt when the application also running to go back to run the OS itself. So I will explain in Sinhala as well. So can OS එක කරන්නේ එයා run වෙන එක නවත්තන using system interrupts. run වෙන එක නවත්තලා ඊට පස්සේ එයා allocate කරන application එකට run වෙන්න. ඒ එක්කම application එකත් කොතැනදීද නවතින්න ඕනේ කියලා එයා system interrupts වලින් එයා ඒක මේ application එකේම කියනවා. Like maybe not for yourself, but maybe computer science and software engineer students, they will need to create those particular interrupts, right? එහෙම interrupts තියලා එතකොට application එක ඒ වෙලාවේ සම්පූර්ණ hardware එකම ගන්නවා. ඊට පස්සේ ඒ අර application එකේ යා ලියලා තියෙන හින්දා එතනින් එහාට ආයේ මේ ඔයාලා OS එක run වෙනවා. That's how actually happening inside your machine, right? So it is okay to say for this particular moment that application software will run on top of system software, but you need to have clear idea that application software will not run on top of system software, but system software will help to run the particular application software by utilizing the hardware and using system interrupts and clocks and those system code. So anyone have problems up to now? Students? If you have any problems or if you didn't get the idea clearly, please, you can unmute or you can raise your hand or even put a message to chat and I will explain this. And I'm going to forward. So software influence, sphere of influence. So this is about how to classify any software. So in this way, so it classifies by identifying the scope of problems and opportunities that software address. So this second dot should be removed. This should be removed. Yeah. It should be removed. So basically, how this sphere of influence is made by categorizing into three: personal, work group, and enterprises. So let's go to the next slide. So you may about there are two types of software: system software and application software. So again, those can be categorized into three: personal, work groups, and enterprises. So personal use is for a single user usage for a particular software, and work groups is two to three like simple groups, and enterprise is some kind of companies and how they are using the particular software. So as given in the examples, so your smartphone, tablet, and your personal computer, your laptops, and some have maybe workstation for your if you go to the industry, you will some of you will go to like video editing and graphic designing, game development. So in those cases, you need to have a workstation, right? So and so in your expect go to the application software. So those who you will probably work with word processing from Word. So if you are using Linux or LibreOffice, And now you you will only use Google Docs. So those are also some personal application software. And for work groups. So there are some network operating systems. So I will explain more about them next flip side. And so for the application. So I think in Sri Lanka they have developed some email protocol to work with a group, some kind of a group collaboration, right? Recently. And apart from that, if you are creating some kind of a program, so there should be some kind of mechanism to uh, uh, create those particular software as a group, and the programs and those are should be developed by a need to develop by a group, and those work should be done by collaborate. So in that case, you will need some kind of a software to do the version control, right? So GitHub, and there are some those tools actually available to that tasks. And even if you are working in that kind of a group, you will need to have some kind of mechanism to schedule your work, schedule everyone's work, like maybe a maintaining a to-do list. So there are some such tools that also available. Some example is Jira. So those are some kind of collaboration application. So when it's come to the enterprises, so I think if you able to visit your university as well, there are some servers and mainframe systems to run your internet here in those activities. And if you are working in a huge domain and you're doing your final year research maybe, so you need to do you need to deal with like thousands of data, right? So when you are dealing with that much thousand of data, probably you will need to work with these system servers to run, not to train your particular program. So if you have experience with such applications like cloud computing, so in AWS and Azure, they are giving that advance to run those particular software. So if you have heard about OpenAI, so there are all systems are taken from Microsoft Azure to run only the ChatGPT, right? And those funding will be have taken from the Microsoft as a cloud credits. So that's how actually happening in the enterprise level. So when we talk about the application, so in a small companies, they using general ledgers, so like order entry, payroll. So payroll is some kind of software to or some software to check about each workers payments and salary. Those are actually calculated by those payroll system. And there are human resource applications. So those are some examples for a software in the enterprise level. So system software. So as you mentioned early, so the primary role or major role what actually do like happen in system software is to control the operations of computer and hardware. And as I mentioned, it helps to run those application programs, and when it's running, some parts will be handled by the system software. So again, system software can be divided into three: operating systems, utility programs, and middleware. So please raise your hand if you have working with Linux, maybe Ubuntu, Kali Linux, or any kind of Linux type operating systems. No? Anyone didn't use any operating system rather than Windows? No one? Red Hat. Okay. And on Ubuntu. Okay. Maybe Mac OS X. No. Any Mac users? Okay, so that means everyone using Windows, right? Please raise if you only work with Windows. So I see only 4 hands. So what about others? It's asked from someone. Index number 627, Gayanti. What is your operating system? I consider all of you have a small PC or laptop, right?
Windows.
Sorry, Windows. Okay.
Yes.
So, so I will suggest you to like buy dual booting, or maybe installing some kind of a virtual machine, Oracle VM or something, and try to get some experience about some kind of a Linux-based system. So macOS also Linux-based system. So initially you will probably feel like it is very hard to do a simple thing, but when you get a bit experience, you will probably understand it is very easy to work with the Linux-based operating system, and even it is very easy respect to the Windows. Can install many softwares in ACE, and even when you are working with servers. So basically, a lot of servers are based on Linux. There are only few number of Windows servers, right? So just to get some experience, please install particular operating system, even by installing a virtual machine, and get bit familiar what are those about and how to do a simple tasks, and even how to do a word processing, create a presentation, and try to work with the terminal. So it's like the command prompt in Windows. So I may one actually use the term Windows command prompt, right? In when you are working with Ubuntu, in like if you get familiar with the terminal, then you will probably only work with the terminal. Like it can do anything you work with the terminal, and it is very easy. So that's one thing in practice. So let's go to the next slide. So operating system. So it is a set of programs. So as we mentioned, it's control computer hardware. So we can say it is act as an interface with application software. So the operating system will enable application software to run, right? And as mentioned here also, operating system will help to run one or more user, or if you have with the workstation, so only one operating system can handle many computers. We can do that as well. So as mentioned here, application software. So operating system is in the middle. It is correct. But when actually application software is running, and this is the application software. So what with my handwriting. So this is application software. So the OS also will be the part of this application software when it is running. So that means some kind of instructions that will need to run this particular application will have in the OS, and altogether the same thing will run on the particular hardware. So this is the hardware, and when it's running, the OS, the main tasks of OS will not run. Only the when application is running, there are some commands like system calls, because when application is over, or if the application, right, if you are put as some applications to get a user input from the keyboard, so it is hardware. So this is the keyboard. Right. So application need that particular user input. So, but the thing is, application on itself cannot run. So what is done is it asks OS to get that user input. Then the OS will run to get the particular user input, right? And after that, the OS has the instructions to pass it to the particular those application, and then the application will take for the whole hardware. That means the CPU, or every application will run on using in the CPU with the help of the main memory. So what is the main memory? It's RAM, right? With the help of CPU and RAM. So when application running, it will utilize the whole CPU and RAM. And when the application is over, there is some system call that was previously applied by the OS will trigger, and then with that system call, then the operating system can run in the hardware, right? That actually happened. So when we have parallel computing with the help of those cores and threads, then in that case, the OS will run on a separate core, right? It can happen, but in a simple scenario, without considering the parallel computing, the whole hardware should be utilized by the particular application, right? So let me know if you have any questions. Yeah, let's move forward. So what is the kernel? So I have explained how the operating system actually work when the application software is running. So kernel is the kernel is also inside the OS. So that has the idea, or that has the those privileges to work with the hardware and get those informations to the application. So as mentioned here, after you start or you boot up the machine, the kernel is the one will actually load to the primary memory of the RAM. So kernel will only the kernel has those privilege. Even the operating system is working, kernel has the whole privileges to get those user input, and there are some mechanisms like so you may probably know about the virtualization. That means in nowadays we actually don't do this because we have more than 8 GB of RAM. But back in those days, when you only working with 64 MB RAM, right? We actually cannot run a particular single software inside that machine. So what is need to do is need to do virtualization by it will virtualize the RAM as bigger than what is actually having. That means 64 MB RAM will be considered or will be shown as 1 GB kind of a RAM. And those virtualization and actually how the memory will be utilized and how the application will be allocated, how the system calls are being triggered, those will happen in the kernel. For operating system itself, it will only know as the it has say 1 GB of RAM, but only the kernel will know the actual memory is 64, and the whole program is running and scheduling to run another program and create a system call, getting user inputs. So those are handled by the kernel, and kernel will hold the application, and so that means it is the heart of the OS, right? So do you have any questions up to now? So for Windows users, you probably do not aware about those kernels and all. But when you are bit familiar with Ubuntu, so there are some mechanism to change those kernel assets, because in Ubuntu it is open source. So I will explain those as well. What is open source? What is proprietary? What is like public domain? That means those are totally free. So there are some differences, but mainly when you are working with those OS like Ubuntu Linux, so you will probably know about those kernels, because they you can choose to edit those kernels by with another kernel. So that's why the Linux-based systems have hundreds of operating systems: Parrot OS, Kali Linux, Red Hat. There are unlimited types of OS. So various combination of OS. So as I mentioned, there are single computer with single use, and multiple simultaneous users. And the other thing, multiple computers, but multiple computers with multiple users, but there is only one OS. So, and special purpose computer. So single computer with single user. So that means your personal computers, tablets, and so when you are you have a some kind of Android phone, so that means the OS is Android. If you have working with uh, Apple, so they have the iOS, so their laptops has the OS X, and so those are the few examples. And for a single machine with multiple simultaneous users. So that means when you are in a university environment, right? So I have worked with the machine that called NPC. So for my final year research. So in that machines had 40 GB GPU. That means graphical processing unit. And its RAM was 128 GB RAM. And hard disk, I think 10 terabytes or something. So that machine has capable of doing working with simultaneous users uh, in a single time, and the OS was Ubuntu. So that's how actually the is come to the actual world. So that machine also the only a simple machine. Yeah, it cost I think more than 20 or 30 lakhs, and it was given to all the students uh, to work with in that particular time. So uh, there are 20 or 30 students who has worked in that particular machines. And so my final year research on speech recognition was also trained in that machine. So even that machine took, I think, more than 2 weeks working in all the 24 hours to train only the train those data. So that's why. So if you are doing your final year research with the many number of data, thousands or maybe large number of data, maybe billions. So in that case, you would probably need to work with those such machine, right? So multiple computers with multiple users. So anyone heard about parallel computing or grid computing? Anyone? Anyone who download some movie from torrent? So what actually happened in torrent? Amrul? Do you aware that what is happening in torrent? How they are sharing those maybe let's stick to a movie. So you can download maybe for proprietary softwares also. Okay, you download the link. Then what's happening? So there is the concept called seeders and leeches, right? So what is that? It is good that anyone can unmute and explain what your experience. I think currently only two hands I can show, can see, but I know that many of you have worked in it. You have downloaded something from those torrent sites, and you may know about those. So yeah, I will explain. So what happened in torrent? So let's say some movie named ABC, and that movie will have inside a particular computer, which has the maybe those P2P method, peer-to-peer method. Thank you, Raviku. So let's say those ABC movies inside a particular machine, and it is CD. CD means it will upload, like anyone can have access through that torrent network, can access to the particular that movie, ABC movie, and we can download. The person can download that movie from that particular computer. That is the peer-to-peer method, right? So that means that movies So there are more seeders. That means the same ABC movie will have many computers, and they are seeding it. That means if we connected to that particular network, we can also download from any of those seeders. So that means those are the leeches. They are downloaded. And in the meantime, if you download something, that also can seed to seed again, right? So that what actually happening. So it's a kind of a network created by many computers, which has many operating systems. So that network will be handled by those network servers. So as mentioned here, so type of system is used to computer networks. So including your home network. Maybe if you are going to internet, so that it's also created by those servers. So in enterprise level, the Red Hat Linux servers. So there are Windows servers, but mostly there will be Linux servers. Many have used the CentOS. CentOS is basically created for the network infrastructure, right? So those are will do those domain names maybe the domain name server mechanism and IP forwarding or IP handling. So those are will happen inside those network servers. And next thing, special purpose computers. So I actually cannot remember any particular example for that. Yeah, so let's consider so particular software in some kind of a particular software in a machine. So that machine is only catered to that particular function. So let's consider about maybe in a car manufacturing so industry, there can be a number of machines. So each machines will need to have a particular operating system to run those tasks. So in that case, that particular software will be a special purpose. So those are utilized to do some kind of a particular function. So as mentioned here, so in military aircraft, so maybe in the digital cameras also, they have embedded particular machine or particular operating system that will handle only those tasks, right? So when it's come to the router also has special instructions to run. So those are also act as the special purpose computers. So the examples for OS, so Windows Embedded, Symbian, and some maybe Linux distribution. So the Kali Linux, Paratos, those are actually created for the security purposes. So there are many apps to check your check with the security and all. So what are the functions? So basically control command computer hardware, and as I mentioned, provide the user interface to manage input and output. So hardware independence, manage system memory and processing tasks, and the network capability, control access to system resources. That means the printers and scanners, those machines, and manage files. So please explain those, some of those. So common hardware functions. That means get a input to input output from keyboard, and from get an input from the keyboard and output it to the display or a printout. So those mechanisms will be handled by the operating system, and retrieve data from the disk, and it will load to RAM. So from the RAM, from the RAM to the cache memory, likewise, and again, so storing those back into the disk, and as I mentioned, as output displays those informations to the monitor or print. So when you are doing with the WordPress or some application, so you need to type your information or your data. So the OS will be providing that interface. So as I mentioned, you are working with the Ubuntu and Linux system, you will need to work with the terminal. So terminal is, as I mentioned, some kind of a command prompt. So there, that interface will be utilized to get your input and output. And about the hardware independence. So actually what that means, hardware independence. So that means the OS will run on the particular hardware, and the application will not need to know about the hardware and what is the architecture. So this will only work for some extent, like so please raise your hand if you are working with Ryzen or other your other processor part from Intel. Please raise your hand if your machine has some processor apart from Intel, maybe Ryzen, or maybe the M1 or M2 chip. I think there was no any users, right? So means all of you have Intel processors. Students, please raise your hand if you have Intel processor at your personal computer. So I see only 3 hands. So what about others? Only 7, 8, 12. So there are 30 students and only 12 hands. So what about the other 18? Let's ask from some Menali. Menali, please rename your name with your index number as well. And now just please rename with your index number and the first name. Menali, can you unmute and say what is your operating system? What is your processor? Your personal computer. Dinushant is using Ryzen processor. So Ryzen is created by the AMD company. So anyone know about those 32-bit, 64-bit architecture? No? So I will explain it this way. So there are various number of hardware types. So and the architecture types are ARM is another architecture, x86 another architecture, and it's come to the bit the 632 bit 64 bit is another architecture. So if you aware 32-bit, if your machine is in 32-bit architecture, it will only able to handle 4GB of main. So nowadays modern computers have the 64-bit architecture. Okay. Yeah. Can you able to put an email to Mr. Karindu? So he will assist you to get registration number. Do you have access to the LMS? If you don't have access to the LMS, please inform that as well. Okay, are there student representatives with us now? Okay. Okay, let's move forward then. So as I mentioned, hardware. So there are many number of hardware types. Now the modern type is the M1 and M2 chips from Apple. So they are MacBooks. So those have different kind of hardware. And what actually operating system does is it has the so operating system will enable the particular application to run on that particular hardware without actually knowing without knowing actually the hardware. So that means if there are if the modern machine have some kind of fast mechanism to do this thing, the OS will know how to deal with that particular software, but it has some certain limit. So when it's come to the M2 and those MacBooks, those have had is okay now, but when the time it was introduced, in that time, like many applications will not able to run on that particular those MacBooks because they had the separate architecture where those RAMs and GPU all are in their CPU. So it differs largely from other general machines, general personal computers. So that architecture will only handled by those operating system. So softwares will be need to develop to applicable with those architecture. So other than that, so when it's come to those Ryzen and Intel, so those application will be able to run smoothly in both architecture without need to have any software update or any mechanism to match with the corresponding hardware. So OS will do the thing to run a particular hardware smoothly. So that why calls the hardware independence. And the memory management. So I have explained that one. So OS will able to maximize the available memory, and it will handle the access and how to utilize the particular application. So it will give the extreme efficiency by the OS to run a particular application and processing tasks. So it will allow 5 basic approaches to manage and increase the amount of processing that can be accomplished by the given amount of time. So they are multi-user. That means allow multiple users to interact with the same machine, and multi-processing. That means it will help to run many tasks in a single time frame. So the other thing is multitask. So what is difference in multiprocessing and multitasking is, so in multiprocessing, so nowadays, so as I mentioned, there are 2 or more number of cores in a particular CPU. So in multiprocessing, it will allow the same program to run simultaneously. So that means like we are doing word processing, and like you are removing some word in the middle. So if you are removing the corresponding words behind that particular word should be moved to the front. word processor එකක මොකක් හරි වචනයක් මුල තියෙන වචනයක් අයින් කරද්දී ඊට පස්සේ තියෙන වචන කලින් එනවා. Right? So that is 2 things: removing and moving the next word. So what you are doing is only the removing. So other moving and aligning those will be do by the application and the OS. So in multiprocessing, so only you are giving your user input, and other thing will be running parallel with another core or another CPU of your computer. So those are actually multiprocessing. So multitasking is in the same time, you can run many programs. Like if you are running WordPress software, and in the same time, you can listen to the music, right? And there are many tasks you can do in the simultaneous, or maybe if you are created some kind of a video. So video will be rendered in the background. At the same time, you are doing the documentation by listening to a song, right? So those are actually multitask, and the OS will allow you to do that. So how it's going to do that? So that are those system calls and so and so. So you can learn those about this, but just have an idea about OS will do that part, and it's not the, so as I mentioned earlier, so the particular program will need to run in the whole hardware, right? And then how we can do the multitasking? So that actually done by the uh, OS. So OS, what OS will do is OS will scheduling those programs to run specific time in sequential manner. That means if there are two programs, that's A and B and the OS. And OS will allow A to run, let's say, millisecond, 5 millisecond times. And the next will be that means the program B will run another 5 millisecond time. Likewise. So OS will schedule each program to run on the run inside the hardware by using scheduling. So in that particular millisecond time, only that program will run, and OS will save the informations, and those will be on the memory likewise. But in a single time, only one program will run in, but the OS is allow multitasking by scheduling, and it will done by sequential. And we so it will feel us to like all the programs will run in simultaneously in a single time frame, but it's not the case. So if you are working with as I mentioned, many cores, there are mechanisms to do that. Single core will handle the single program, so two core will handle two programs in simultaneous. So multi-threading. So actually, in multi-threading, it will allow the different threads to run single program in concurrent. So that is simultaneous. So as mentioned here, thread is set of instruction within an application that is independent from other threads. So for example, the spreadsheet program, the thread we open the workbook separate from the thread and some calculation of figures. So so actually the previous example I explained to the multiprocessor is very much suitable for the multi-threading. And so that means the simple instruction of tasks that can be run on separate by the single program can be run on the separate threads, right? And real time. So it is not the case, but we can feel that the operating system will do our things in real time. But actually what happens, still do sequentially, but since the scheduling and those virtualizations, so it will happen instantly. So as mentioned here, the task scheduler can stop any tasks at any point, and its execution if it determines that the another higher priority tasks need to run immediately. So real-time OS are used to control the operation of jet engines, deployment of airbags, and the operation of anti-lock and braking systems. So those kind of scenarios where there are higher priority. So OS scheduler actually has those privilege to run any currently running tasks in any time and run those higher priority tasks immediately. So networking and capability. So as I mentioned in the torrent, I say, so those networking capabilities also handled by the operating system. And access to the system resource, those are the printers and scanners or other resources. So that means in a shared environment where there are in the corresponding network has 5 computers, let's say, and only 1 printer. And when in a particular time, let's say 3 of those machines will put printing tasks, and the printer will need to print all the 3 tasks. But how it going to manage? So those are actually handled by the operating system. So it will allocate those printer to a particular machine, and in that time the other tasks will be all, and only that after finishing that particular task, then only able to use the printer by the other machines. So here mentioned so about the security. So OS needs to provide high level of security against unauthorized access to the user data and program. So when you are installing a particular software, probably in Windows also, you may ask about run this in the admin user privilege, right? So that means only the particular admin can install those softwares. So if you're working with Ubuntu, uh, Ubuntu or Linux environment, you may have heard about the keyword sudo. So sudo means as a super user, do this. That means the sudo. So that privileges will be handled by the OS. So if there are unauthorized access, so those will be blocked by the OS. So there are security privileges in certain levels. So in Windows also you can search about and go through about those levels as well. So as mentioned here, the OS establish a logon procedure that requires users to enter identification codes such as their username and password. Only username and password you can log on to the system. Right. So after logon, so if you are logon as admin, so then you can do some relevant tasks. And if you are only a user or guest user, you cannot do much tasks as that. So those are handled by, so those authorizations or access, even access, those are handled by the operating system. And the main file management. So like you may have heard about NTFS FAT32. So those are the terms. So especially in Windows, we use those NTFS file system, and when it comes to Ubuntu, we probably use the FAT32 and those architectures. So then, if you are is dual boot up your machine, you can see that you cannot access the Ubuntu hard drive from the Windows. But when you are in the Windows or Ubuntu operating system, you can access the Windows hard drive access. So that's how the file management actually works. And the security also will be handled by the OS about accessing those files and even in the multi-use environment. So OS operating systems by spheres of influence. So the personal operating system, Microsoft Windows from Windows back in early days, Windows 95 to 95 sent to the first. Yeah. I have worked with Windows 98 and now Windows 11 and so other one Mac OS X, and we will probably work with Google Android, maybe Chrome OS and Linux based systems. So let's come to the work groups. So Windows has the Microsoft Windows Server. So in enterprise level, it's also the same. And OS X also has servers, and probably, as I mentioned, many servers will be based on Unix and Linux based system in the enterprise level as well. So those are some few examples. So let's do the utility program. So do you have questions up to now? So I have explained some few things about operating systems. So actually, those are only the ground level, or just to give you a brief idea. So operating system itself is some whole course you can follow. So I said maybe the idea also you probably get a full course about the middlewares and so on and so forth. So before that, please, this is for just to give an idea about how actually happening those things. So let's go to the utility programs. It's mentioned here. So those are to only to do some kind of a specific tasks or typical tasks to maintain and do some kind of a things. So your antivirus softwares. So those are running background, and they will allow you to do your work without having a fear of getting a maybe the virus or any virus attack or ransomware. And when it's come to the internet also, so the utility software to run those your internet will also handle by that particular software. So if you have a dongle, or probably now you are working with Wi-Fi, so that Wi-Fi will be handled by the network. But if you are using dongle, so there are some utility software you need to install. So here it mentioned designed to merge and sort set of data, keep track of computer jobs and be in front. So compressed data, that means the WinRAR and 7zip, those are also considered as utility software. That means they will run in the background to do some kind of specific tasks related to the system maintenance or problem correction. So here are a few examples, as I mentioned earlier, hardware utilities. So it will check the status of all parts. So that means the memory, hard disks, speakers, printers, and so on. And security. So antivirus softwares and firewall. So those are those security softwares and the file compression. So as I mentioned, WinRAR and those. When it's come to your email, so it's spam filtering, also a utility. And for network, so it monitor hardware network performance and trigger an alert when a service crashing or network problem occurs. So those are those utility softwares. So when you are working with the server like Ubuntu server, so if the network is broken, so then the machine will not be able to access. So there should be those utility programs to run and fix the program itself. So otherwise, the server maybe server will be deploying some another country, and in that case, you need to have those utility softwares to reboot the network and get access to the system again. Otherwise, you will lose that machine. So the next category of operating system software is middleware. So middleware also system software that will different from application because it will allow the different applications to communicate and exchange data. So it's like message service, right? So when you're dealing with when you're working in a industry level project and you need to get the particular information from another application. Let's say like you are dealing with creating the front end. That means the basically the interface or web pages, and those web pages should be filled by the data which came from the database servers and all. But you cannot directly access those database due to security mechanisms. So that where the middleware will be come. So middleware have the capability to access both the databases and we need to pass the our instructions to the middleware with the security key, and middleware will check with the security key and our port and what we are actually requesting. After doing that, the middleware will ask database to retrieve those data. Then middleware will be redirect those information back to the front end. So one or front end application. So it will act. That's why it's called middleware. So it will work in the middle to to get those relevant data to both those applications. So as here mentioned, it can use to transfer requests for information from a corporate customer company website to traditional database. So it's the same sample. So mainframe computer return the results that information request to customer on the internet. So it is the same, right? So these are about the system softwares. So I have explained operating systems and utility programs and middleware. So those message serving APIs and we are working with Node.js. So there are a lot of middlewares to retrieve those data. So those are about the system software. So do you have any questions up to now? Students? So yeah, this part will be easy because you may already work with many application softwares. So as I mentioned earlier, so application software will enable to solve particular problem or particular tasks to all the spheres of influence. That means people, work groups, and for the entire enterprise. So there are two types: proprietary software and off-the-shelf software. So proprietary means it's owned by a particular company, organization, or maybe people can be. So off-the-shelf means that is open source. So it is produced by software vendors, address the need of common across business, organization, or individuals. So here the example, Amazon.com uses the same off-the-shelf payroll system as many business, but on its website, the company uses custom designed proprietary software which allows visitors to more easily find items to purchase. So if you are working with Windows and Windows Office and so and so, so those are proprietary softwares. That means if you even purchase those software, the particular software is owned to the Microsoft company. You have no privilege to edit the code and edit any thing in the program. But when you are working with off-the-shelf software like LibreOffice and maybe the Libre, even the latex, let me say Olive. So those are freely available, and even you can see the source code. That is what we call open source software. So some other off-the-shelf softwares, those are another categories that are you cannot access to the source code, but you can freely work in that particular software. And even some other software categories, they have those softwares have the source code and you can freely access, and even you can edit anything from the source code, and you can sell it by yourself, and even you do not need to provide the source code again. So that can be also done even if you you can access to the Ubuntu source code, and you're willing to create a business model by giving some adjustment to the Ubuntu code, and you can create another operating system. Maybe that is specific to maybe in security or even specific to network. It's up to you to decide. And what you can do is you can simply uh, uh, redistribute with the price also. That can be done. But yeah, in Ubuntu you can sell it, but since it is open source, you need to put the source code as well. And there are some other Unix based systems where it will have no any particular license. So I think in next few lectures we will learn about those licensing as well. Even the maybe the other lecture in software issues and professional practice lecture. In that also you will learn about those software license. So there are such categories when it's come to the shelf software. So personal applications, these are available to meet as individual in your home, work, so anywhere. So example, WordPress, spreadsheet analysis, database, project management, desktop publishing, even gaming, game development, and machine learning. So programming. So those are some applications. So work group application software. So these are developed to support teamwork or uh, or maybe a group of 2 to 3 people. So there should be work with irrespective of the location. So there's also called the collaborative software, and as I mentioned, the team should be work remotely. That's why how the those GitHub and those will comes here. GitHub, Jira, so it's some group schedule software, electronic mail, and even you can do the same thing by using the Google Docs and Google Slides and the Google Sheets. So those are also some work group applications. So they allow you to do the tasks irrespective of the location as a group. So those like web-based softwares are the ideal examples. So when it's come to the enterprise application software, so those have some major considerations that are total cost of the total cost. That means for both the software and before the software and after the software. So if you are working efficiently, the total cost should be reduced. So out the S of introduction, that means if the particular software needs to install in a large number of computers, so there should be a mechanism to do it in a single step or single way. Otherwise, it's very hard to install many number of computers, and they should be easily managed. And the major particular thing is that corresponding software should be able to couple with and the other applications as well. So that means here the example, so account receivable, the type of the software, that means do the sales ordering, and the another software is account payable. so that means code entry. So those should be able to couple with those. That means the information should be able to share with among each other applications. And payroll, so automatic dealer system, that means resource management, inventory control. So those those systems should be able to couple with other softwares, and they should be easily installed, and the cost should be reduced. So these are the major considerations which come to the enterprise application. So do we have any problems? So I will. Yeah, we have a few more time. So I have quickly gone through about the application of desktop, because you may already learn about more things, these softwares. Any questions? So, all right, let's go to the next chapter, that is software issues and trends. So you need to, as I mentioned in the first place, you need to have a where the end user license agreement, that is copyright and licensing, and the freeware and open source software, and especially the software upgrades and software bugs. So as mentioned here, is the bug is a defect in the computer programs, and so what that means is there are bug, the maybe some irrelevant parties can be access those bugs, and they can do major harm to your system. So in enterprise level application, you develop some kind of application in enterprise level, if there are bugs, and there can be case you will have reduced your amount that you are going to get from the system. So I heard newly that Tesla model X cars have a bug that hackers can easily hack into the system and can get upgrade without paying the Tesla companies. So as a client side, that it will be get benefited, but the problem is if you like do those activities, then we are violating the license, right? So the worth about the your product will be reduced. So what are the tips that need to know about the reducing the impact of software bug? So as mentioned here, if the software is copyright software, so what this means, you need to register to those companies, and they will responsible for those bugs, and they should quickly fix those bugs. And when it's come to the open source, that means the code is open, so everyone can see. So in that case, it is hard to do any tasks by the hackers. If someone able to break Ubuntu or those open source uh, applications, what that means is uh, those will be reported those bad activities, and many will see what is there, and they will quickly fix this because the software is open. And what we need to do is we need to keep update our system. But in the proprietary products, those bug fixes should be handled by the particular company, right? So that particular company will responsible, but the thing is, since it is a company, so there will be less number of people who are working with the product, and they will, as a company, they will need to work with any other products as well. So the time of those bugs is fixing will be get more high. So the hackers may be able to employ those problems very easy. So that's why that's some major drawback. But the the client benefit is those particular organizations is responsible, so we can claim from them, and they will like other thing is they is responsible, so they should given back the fix those bugs and even those patches in due time. So, and install the latest software updates. So you can go through in this, and just try to understand about the licensing and so and those things, so you can just get an idea how what if there are some problem is occurred, so how you're going to deal. So these are the, as mentioned, copyright and license. So most companies aggressively guard and protect source code, so that's why it is called proprietary software. So the benefit is those are protected by the law as well. And when people purchase software and they don't actually own the software. So in the Windows and Microsoft Office as well, we don't own software. And they are licensed the software for a particular computer, so that only that computer will be access to that purchase software. So that's why it's called single use license. That means in the single use license, it will only privilege to the one occurrence of that software is to use in a single machine. So that means it will permit that software installing at the computers. So freeware and open source. So freeware is software that made available to public for free. That's the public domain. So freeware is different from free software. So that means the freeware is not totally free, and that is open source. So in open source, they also have a license. So you will probably learn more about the lectures, but simply, so the free, that means in freeware also, that means open source software, they also have a particular license. In that license, in open source licensing, they have explained that you can even change or do anything to the source code, but you need to distribute the source code as well, and you can even sell. It is okay, but they ask is to uh, uh, show the or clearly open the source code. so that others can also able to visit what is this program is about. That means if you are taking from one application which is open source, that is the source code also open, and you do some changes, and you will distribute it with your identity. But you need to, since you are taking that free open source software, you need to open the source code for your application as well. So there is a license, and when it's come to the public domain software, that is actually freely available. That is, you can do anything. You don't need to give the credit also, and you can even sell it. And you can even do not share the source code as well. So there are those as well. So I think you can go through with these software upgrades, and yeah. So the final part of the today's session is about the computer languages. So these all the operating systems and application softwares, system softwares, those middleware all are created by computer languages. So basically, computer will, like we say, computer will know zeros and ones. So those are machine language. And so actually, code will know about those. Computer will know about the variability of the voltage. That means simple variables. And we are again virtualization them to zeros and ones. So one particular voltage level will be zero, and one particular voltage level will be one. So those are the virtualization. And again, we will virtualize those collection of those ones and zeros with the assembly language. So maybe you will learn about this in the computer systems subject, which is big higher level than machine, but it's also again machine dependent. And next, the high level languages that are the C, C++, Java, Node, and those web development application, and internet has maybe some other languages, Python. Those are the high level languages. Then it's come to the fourth generation, that are SQL, as structured query language. So when it's come to the SQL, we are typing, or we are writing those code as the some kind of a word sentences, sentences, like select all from particular DB, where the particular column is equal to this and this, likewise. So it is a bit easier to use. And even logic programming also, it is another paradigm. So where you can easily able to code, but there are some limited capabilities. So when it's come to the now with the knowledge-based systems and natural programming. So I may heard about somehow install the Unreal Engine, right? Yeah, Unreal Engine. So in Unreal Engine, it has a mechanism to code with using the graphical approach. So that is called the visual program. And in natural language processing, you will enable to work with your language. So I will basically, my research area also basically on the natural language processing, where we can work with computer with simply our languages and those knowledge-based systems. So again, the logic programming also help you to create that knowledge base, right? And yeah, this is up to the today's lecture. So do you have any questions, students? Okay, yeah, and you will probably get in an assignment from the first four lessons from uh, Ms. Prasadini. I think it will be scheduled in next week or the upcoming week. I will inform you about more information of that aspect. Probably will be a MCQ. That means a single section will have one or more answers. So please get ready for that as well. So again, if you have questions, you can ask now, or we can wind up the session. Students? Okay, I think then we can